There's been plenty of looming questions around the appointment of Jesse Marsch after he was appointed to take over the Canadian men's national team. And it really evolved around the fact that Jesse Marsch is an American-based manager. And the fact that a lot of Canadian men's national team supporters have taken to Twitter, have taken to Facebook to really place their displeasure and concern around the fact that the CSA has gone out there and hired an American manager, talking about how it could be a problem for the CSA and Canada hiring an American manager, of course, our biggest rivalry in the most important era of Canadian football, and that it could be a problem or an issue, or maybe even see the CSA regret hiring an American manager in the near to long future. And I think it's really a fair question or a very interesting point of topic of discussion. But for me, hiring Jesse Marsch as an American manager is no problem at all and should be a topic that should really be squashed, because Jesse Marsch for me was the best candidate and the best possible manager that the CanMNT and CSA could have appointed for this all important era of Canadian football and the most important era of Canadian football. And Jesse Marsch was the best option for the CSA to go out there and appoint. But I think it's a fair question that could be asked if it will be a problem to hire an American manager. And let me know in the comments, guys, if you think it was a problem hiring an American-based manager and if it will be an issue in the near to long term. So let me know in the comments. Make sure to drop a sub and a like. But we're going to get straight into it because I, of course, did talk about the fact that Jesse Marsch is an American manager and that some people did show their displeasure after he was hired. And I broke that down in my reaction video, but I wanted to talk about this in a larger section because I find it very interesting. Because there is a way that you can spin this in a negative way and in a positive way, and you can do that anything in life. But Jesse Marsch being American, for me, isn't a problem because he was the best candidate. In my personal opinion. Yes, there was managers like Stefan Kuntz, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Paul Clement, who were all great options. But Jesse Marsch being an American is such a positive in my opinion. And the fact that he does have that direct correlation and rivalry with the USMNT and the US Federation and Gregg Berhalter, yes, can be looked at in a negative way, but is only going to add fuel to the fire for Jesse Marsch being the now Canada manager. Because yes, throughout punditry, throughout his podcast, since Jesse Marsch hasn't been in a job, he has shown his displeasure and criticism towards the current USMNT manager in Gregg Berhalter, and that he isn't a fan of his tactics, he isn't a fan of how he sets up that USMNT side, and he's really thrown shade onto Gregg Berhalter throughout his time in unemployment, and since he hasn't been out with a job since his last job with Leeds United. And Jesse Marsch has really taken harshly to Gregg Berhalter, and you've seen that rivalry build up and the tension build up. And yes, I can get how some Canadian fans could use that in a negative light and throw shade onto that, but that's only a positive in my view, because Jesse Marsch is going to take that as fuel to fire in this Canadian job, and when he goes to line up against the US, and when he goes to line up against Gregg Berhalter, he's now has so many people to prove wrong in this job, and it's such a prove it type of job for Jesse Marsch to take not an extremely powerful side within CONCACAF or within international football, but with some great players, a squad that he can go out there and upset a lot of teams, play underdog, and really prove it to a lot of supporters worldwide. This is an appointment and a job that has taken the eyes of even people in England and all over the world. And Jesse Marsch is a very interesting appointment. Not just the fact that there's always going to be that rivalry, you got to look at it, that I get why people are looking at it and throwing shade that we're hiring an American. Whenever a Canadian or position and Canadian is going to get hired in America, or an American is going to get hired for a Canadian national team job, there's always going to be that question, because that is one of the bigger rivalries in sports, especially in North America. That American-Canadian rivalry is known worldwide. And Jesse Marsch being hired as an American to manage Canada was always going to be a topic of discussion. And it was always going to be brought up, whether it was fans, punditry, and broadcasters. Jesse Marsch being American was always going to get talked about. No matter which way we wanted to look at it, having that American asterisk next to his name was going to be talked about as him being the next Canadian national team manager. But that is never a problem. The fact that some people are going to look at Jesse Marsch wanted to become the next USMNT manager, especially when Gregg Berhalter left the side and then came back. Jesse Marsch clearly wanted to be the next USMNT manager. He's a former USMNT player and, of course, a USMNT coach under the time in the 2010 World Cup when he was there as an assistant manager. Jesse Marsch was ready for that USMNT job. That was the job he clearly wanted, but that is not a negative at all for the CanMNT and the CSA, because Jesse Marsch is now, like I said, when the Gregg Berhalter beef as well, all of this is going to be used as fuel to the fire for Jesse Marsch to go out there and prove it to millions of fans worldwide, whether it's Leeds supporters in the Premier League, or Americans. A lot of Americans are looking at Canada appointing Jesse Marsch as a great hire in some sense, because they wanted him over Gregg Berhalter. And the fact that Jesse Marsch didn't get that job as the USMNT manager, he's going to use that as extra motivation, extra ambition to be able to take this Canadian side to the next level and prove people wrong. Because Jesse Marsch, I could see some people around Jesse Marsch being skeptical, or hiring an American being skeptical, if they didn't have that extra ambition, that extra prove it mentality that Jesse Marsch is going to have in this Canadian role. Because if it was an American manager who hasn't shown interest in wanting the Canadian role previously, if it was an American manager who didn't have this extra prove it mentality and beef with whether it's Gregg Berhalter, the USMNT Federation, then I can understand to a certain extent. But Jesse Marsch is a top professional manager who's ready to get back out there and prove his status quo at the top level, and to show why he is still that desired manager for a lot of clubs and why he could still go out there and do great things. He took the traditional level, going and managing throughout the Red Bull program, taking the next step all the way through, getting to the Premier League, and since then taking time off to figure out what project he wanted next. Yes, he won the USMNT job, and like I said, you can put a positive or a negative spin on anything. And I get that people might spin this in a negative sense, that we have gone out there and hired an American. But really, those same ways you can spin it negatively, you can easily spin it more positively and make it a very interesting, more and great point. Because Jesse Marsch being an American, whether you want to put the correlation between him and Berhalter, like I said earlier, or the correlation between him and the USMNT, you can easily make that a positive as well. And for me, going out there and hiring an American manager is only a positive in Jesse Marsch, because he is going to take that fuel to fire and make this Canadian side extremely exciting. So let me know what you guys think down below. Was it a problem hiring an American? Was it a problem hiring Jesse Marsch? And will the CSA regret it? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to hit that sub button and drop a like, and I'll see you guys for the next one. Peace.